They say talk is cheap. Come and have a seat. Join the conversation. This is what you need. Real convo, authentic and honest. Communicating in marriage, yeah, we gotta talk about it. Yeah, never hold back. Lay it all out on the table. Building up stronger relations. It's time for a transformation. This is real talk, something you can feel talk. Come and grab a seat. Yeah, it's time to have some bell talk. Woo, bell talk.
Hello everyone, I am Nadia.
I'm Stephen.
Welcome to another episode of Bell Talk. Tonight we're going to be continuing our series on family values, and we're going to be focusing on the topic of parenting, and the discussion is going to be generational spirits, emotions, and success. Yes, heavy topic tonight. Heavy topic. So first off, generational spirits. So a lot of people call them generational curses. Stephen and I, we call it generational spirits. A lot of people get generational curses from in the Bible. There are instances where because of the sins of the father, there were instances where his lineage was cursed because of his sins. And that started in the Old Testament, and it also ended in the Old Testament. Stephen had more scripture.
Yeah. So to start this conversation off, all right, what my wife is talking about is basically in the Old Testament, in Deuteronomy 24 verse 16, it talks about how fathers should be put to death because of the children, and nor shall children be put to death because of their fathers. Each one shall put to death for his own sin, meaning that now we're held accountable for what you do. Everybody's held accountable for what you do. So if you have a drug addiction, if you're a pedophile, or stealing, whatever, killing, all right, because you have that issue, your generation won't get cursed because of you. God will punish you for what you've done, and vice versa. So when you have children, they don't have to suffer the consequences of having a crazy father, a crazy mother, grandfather, grandparent, whatever. So now that the curse has been broken because it was established in the Old Testament. So therefore, my kids can't be cursed because I was a trip. Okay, if they were born, praise God, they were born, but they're not carrying the weight of the sins of the past from their parents, grandparents, and vice versa.
Exactly. Right. So that's the reason why we don't say generational curses anymore. We say generational spirits because literally how I feel is that it's literally just a cycle. It's a habit.
Right.
So if you look down your bloodline, and like Stephen was saying, like if your great grandfather was a drunk, then you find out that your grandfather was a drunk, and then your father's a drunk, and then next thing you know, you're being tempted to drink. Like it's literally, that's why I call it a spirit. Like I feel like it's literally just a spirit that's attaching itself to each generation until somebody stands up and say, hey, this is where the buck stops. Like this will not continue in my household. This will not continue in my bloodline. So, I feel like habits just have to be broken. It's not curses and all this kind of stuff. That is literally just a spirit that just needs to be stopped, casted out, prayed over, or whatever. So, like even with me, I dealt with a lot of things as a young girl, not really knowing that these were also some things that my mother and even my grandmother had went through, and I didn't discover this until I was in my early 30s. Having a conversation with my mom about some things that I've been through, because I didn't always stay with my mother. So having a conversation with her about some things that I had been through, she goes on to say that, oh yeah, I've been through this as well as a little girl, and your grandmother been through this, and I'm like, whoa, like. Somebody gonna tell me this, like I'm like, wow, like this is crazy. Yeah, so now I'm thinking as a parent who have a daughter, who have a son, and I'm like, oh no, like this is where the buck stops. Like this is not happening in my household. This is not happening to my daughter. So this is where prayer comes into play, because now you have kids who you never know when something or where something's going to take place. It depends on what the situation is. In your family, it could be, like Stephen said, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be, rape, molestation, it could be anything, and you never know what's in your blood. Like me, like I said, I didn't find out till I was in my 30s, so you never know what's in your bloodline unless somebody says something, or you go and you start trying to find out, what your history is like. So once you become aware, now it's time for you to start praying for your kids. That's No, devil. Like this is where it stops. It's not happening in the Bell household. Like you're not gonna come. You're not gonna attack my kids. Like you're not attacking my daughter, my son, my husband. Like this is not happening. So once I became aware of certain things that happened to them, I came home and I talked to my husband about it, and our prayer mode, like, no, we praying over our kids. You can protect your kids while they're in your household, but once they leave your house, all we can do is pray and ask for God to cover them. Because nowadays, things are crazy. Like I said, they could be in practice, they could be in school, they could be in choir rehearsal for God. Right. Like you never know when the enemy's going to use anybody. So the best that we can do as parents is to pray for them. Pray for them, pray over them as they leave. But as you become aware of these different generational spirits, you have to warfare over your kids. There are things that about us, that we can see in ourselves that we inherited from our parents, some good and some bad. As you look at your kids, I hear some people like, oh, my child made that face, or, they did this or they did that. Like I can see myself, and I can see myself in them. I see myself in my daughter all the time, and it's crazy because we butt heads a lot. And something that she do, and I just, in my mind, I'm like, man, like she just remind me of myself so much when I was younger, and it's crazy. And my son, he's a lot like my husband, in a lot of different ways. So it's like you look at them and you can see yourself in them. And the same thing, with myself. I look at myself and Stephen, saying you look at yourself and there's things about you, like, I have ways from my parents, like I said, some good and some bad, but the ways that are bad, those are the things that you take control over and you work on. You should not have you should never use them as a crutch. Well, I'm this way because this is what I grew up around, or this is all I knew, or this is all I grew up around. This was in my household. No, that's a crutch because you're your own individual. Once you become your own person, you have a say so of what you become now.
And like my wife was saying, like, the kids take on the atmosphere of whatever their upbringing. So the first example they're gonna have is the parents, and the parents has the responsibility, and we're accountable to making sure we teach them, not only teach them verbally what they should and should not do, but also show them a great godly example of what they should do. So they hang around the parents their whole life until they have to leave the home. So if you got a nasty attitude, or if you have a lying tongue, and the kids see that, okay, well, mommy said don't steal, but I see a whole bunch of cartons of cigarettes in your house, and you don't smoke, and you lying all the time, they're gonna adapt the habit of lying and be a compulsive liar, because that's the example, and that's what you're showing them. So teaching them one thing teaching them some things that they shouldn't do is one thing, but showing them example and teaching them is another. They have to see the example, and they got to hear the example as you continue to help them grow up. And like I said, my wife was saying before, these generational spirits, these are spirits that we entertain in our families, in our culture, especially the African American culture, that we teach from one generation to another. So if you don't break the cycle of, okay, like let's say you have a Rolling Stone grandfather, he's a whoremonger, all right, he was sleeping around everybody, and you think, well, he thinks there's nothing wrong. They don't see me, they don't see my actions, but you're showing, you're doing things that lets people know, okay, something's up. So even though you're not physically there to show them or teach them certain things, because that's what you're doing, and you're constantly doing that, and you're doing stuff on the side, eventually it falls on the next generation. Because you come home, you're lying. You come 3 o'clock in the morning. What's that in your purse? What's that in your wallet? Whose telephone is that? You leave a trail, and eventually kids catch on. As you get older, they start catching on. I seen grandfather at such and such house yesterday. At 2 o'clock in the morning. It's like stuff, they catch on to stuff. But you're really showing them that it's okay to be a whoremonger.
And just to take it another level, as Steph and I are Christians, so even as a Christian, like some parents, they may feel like, well, I don't do certain things in front of my kids, so they feel like they're not going to inherit that particular trait. You can be a whoremonger and your child never see it, but you come home and you still bringing that spirit in your house.
That's right.
they may never see anything that you do, but you bringing that spirit in your house. The next thing you know, now they're an adult and they're doing something that they might have never saw you. Then they might have never saw you do, but you bring that in the household.
That's right.
So they may never have to see you do anything. But that's why we call it a generational spirit. It's a spirit. It's a spirit that attaches itself. So in order to get rid of that spirit, you have to parade that thing away. So just because you feel like, well, my child never see me do, actually, they don't have to see you do anything. It's a spirit that attaches itself to you. So until once you recognize that, hey, this is an issue that I see that I'm picking up or I'm inheriting, and I know this is something that was before me. Oh no, I gotta get rid of this. I gotta pray this thing. I will not be like, my mom, my dad, my sister, I would not be like, the people who came before me. This spirit will not attach itself to me. I have to get rid of that. And like I tell my husband, a lot of times in our culture, there's a lot of things that goes on that you're not allowed to talk about. Like back in the day, certain things went on in the family and the tradition. There's just certain things, bad things that you just couldn't talk about. So it just goes on every generation after generation after generation. Right. So that thing just keeps cycling itself over and over and over again. And it's simply because nobody can talk about this, because everybody makes you feel like these things are bad. If your granddaddy was a major drunk, but everybody in the family, they love granddaddy. Granddaddy was, just the most lovable person. So nobody wants to talk about how bad granddaddy is a drunk. It's the unspeakable. You can't speak about granddaddy because everybody loves granddaddy. But now granddaddy's going on, and now granddaddy's son, our uncle, now he's a drunk. Everybody loves the uncle, so guess what? Nobody can speak about how bad, he's a drunk. So now he's going on, and he have a son. So it's like, okay, so if this cycle just keeps going on and on and on, like, when is somebody going to stand up and say, hey, like, this is just going on way too long. Like, this have to stop. Like, this thing is killing off members. It's hurting people. It's detrimental. Like, this is not good. Like, who's going to stop it?
And it's funny how it's funny because just like how you can have a lying spirit and you be like just a compulsive liar. And your kids like, man, you know what? We was at the park. You wasn't at the movies. I mean, so they see that, but it's causing confusion because you're raising your family around your good and your bad habits. So if you keep doing that, it becomes a culture. It becomes the way of life, and they adapt to that. So as parents, we have the responsibility to be a gatekeeper of your house. Anything that comes past you guys and it's downloaded into your kids is because we allow that to continue on festering. Now, I'm not saying they won't learn anything outside of the house, because my wife is saying they go to school, they hang out with other kids, maybe other not siblings, but cousins, uncles, and aunts, and you're not
always there,
so
you're not going to always be able to control, what they learn outside of your house,
or who they hang out with,
even with social media. They're on the tablets. They're going to learn stuff. Just don't let their bad habits come from you. So if they pick up bad habits, just don't let it come from you. I was thinking about something like you're a Christian, like Stephanie and I am, and you're trying to raise your kids in the right way, and you're telling them lying is bad and all this kind of stuff, and your church doing the fast, and you're on the phone talking to your girlfriend, and you're like, oh yeah, I've been fasting all day, and that child know you just got out the car eating some low country ball, and they walking past your room like, mama just had low country ball in the car. Like, what she talking about? Like, your kids don't have to be around like to see every bad thing that you do. Like, it's like you telling them don't do this, but kids, especially at a young age, like parents who have young kids, your kids watch everything. Like, you don't have to see them, but your kids watch everything, like, especially at a young age. Every single thing you say and do, like, they remember. Like, my daughter all the time, but mommy, I remember you said this, mommy, I remember you said that, and I'm like, oh God, like, they remember everything. So never be that parent to be like, do as I say, not as I do. Because your child, they can't speak up for themselves now when they're younger, but as they begin to become a teenager, like, they will begin to vocalize themselves, and they will like, hey, like, and they might think like, Mom, you're a hypocrite because you tell me don't do this, are you telling me to live this type of way, but this is what I see you do. So how can you expect me to respect you when this is what I see you do? Period.
Boom. And the next topic, we're talking about emotions. Now, emotions is like, you know, you want to make sure you communicate with your children about how they feel about themselves during the process of them growing up. A lot of times as they're growing, they're going to feel a certain way about themselves. You know, they go through puberty. There's so many different challenges they go through, not only physically, but also emotionally. And sometimes, like our kids, or even for myself growing up, my wife growing up, we don't have the words to really express how we're feeling. They could be feeling down and out and don't even know what's going on with them. And it could be who they hung out with, what they heard in their ear. We don't know. So it's good to keep open communication with your children so you understand, or check in with them. Hey, how you feel today? You feel all right? How was your day? How was your day at school? And constantly let them know how much they mean to you, how much they care, or how much you care about them. So that, you know, as they get older, whenever they're feeling a certain way, they don't mind coming to mommy and daddy and expressing themselves, right or wrong, because they know that they can express themselves to you without any judgment or being overly critical or analytical about how they're feeling.
True, yeah. So you always want to keep that open communication with your kids. That's something I feel like I never really had with my parents. So I always say, you know, like when I have my kids, I want my kids to not so much reverence me, but respect me. I don't want my kids to be afraid of me, but I want them to respect me. So whereas there's something happened in their lives and, you know, they're feeling some type of way, I don't want them to be to the point where, you know, I'm so scared of mom, I can't talk to her about this. Or I'm so afraid of dad, you know, that I don't feel like I can talk to him about this because I'm just afraid of how he's going to respond. Mm-hmm. You know, I want my kids to be comfortable with me where no matter what they're feeling, what's going on, right or wrong, whatever happened with them, that they can come to me for anything. I was telling Stefan about a couple of, I think like last month sometime, I was having a conversation with my daughter. Nala had did something and I was trying to express to her how disappointed that her father and I was with her, because Stephanie and I, we do a lot of talking with our kids. You know, we try our best to do a lot of talking because we want to really understand what you're thinking and your actions. We're trying to connect the dots. So when you do something, we're trying to think like, okay, like where is your mind, what you're thinking? We're trying to get to the bottom of it. So I'm having this conversation with her and we're talking about feelings and emotions and how she was feeling when, you know, she did whatever she did. And as I'm talking to her, like literally the thought crossed my mind, like you have this, no one ever had this conversation with you before. And I immediately like started to choke. And it took everything in me to hold back tears because I just felt like, man, I just broke off a link of something that was generational. Like I never really had anybody to sit down with me and say, hey, how are you feeling? You know, ask me about my emotions. You know, why are you acting this type of way? You know, what are you feeling? And you know, what's going on with you? I never, you know, so, you know, sometimes as a kid, when you feel neglected or you feel, you know, when you don't know how to feel, a lot of times kids express themselves through acting out. And that's how I was a lot of times. Like I didn't understand my life a lot of times growing up, like even in middle school and high school. So I fought a lot. Like I literally, like I was just like an angry child. I just fought like boys, girls. Like I was a bad kid. And literally it was because I just did not understand myself. I didn't understand my life. I didn't understand anything. So I was just angry. And I never really had anybody to just sit down and like, hey, like what's going on? Like, you know, what's going on? And everybody see your situation. Everybody know you're going through foster care. Everybody see your, you know, your failures. Everybody see the things that you go through as a little girl, but nobody takes that time to sit down and say, hey, like, what's really going on with you? How, you know, like, how can I help? You know, like everybody's just, you know, doing life. So I fought a lot, you know, so with me reminiscing everything that I went through as a little girl, what it took for me to get to where I am today, I thought about my daughter and I'm like, I don't want her to have to fight the struggles that I had to fight as a girl, not knowing my identity, not having anyone really to talk to about how I feel without, you know, looking some type of way. So as I'm having this conversation with her, I just started choking, like trying to hold back tears because I'm like, oh my God, like I've never had anyone to have a conversation with me like this, and I'm having this conversation with my daughter. I feel like I literally just broke something. I just started a whole new trend. Like it felt good. It was like an emotional, but it felt good moment at the same time. And I was just like so excited. I was proud of myself. And she had no idea. She just standing there looking at me like I'm in trouble. You know, she had no idea what the emotions I was feeling at that time.
The fact that, for my wife, the fact that she's aware of that and she can identify with those moments where that's what she lacked, and now my daughter does not have to experience the lack that she had endured because she covered it. So my wife knows, my daughter doesn't know, and she's unaware of that, but that's good because now we know, or we both know that, okay, that's one thing off her list you can check off now, because my daughter never had to experience feeling neglected or not understanding how she feels. If she feels up, down, angry, upset, bothered, and have no reason why, she has somebody she can confide in to say, hey, I was where you was at, let me help you unravel that so you won't go around like a hellion or mad at the world, and you're a teenager or you're 9 or 10 years old. What you doing being mad for? Like, you ain't got no bills to pay. You don't have no responsibilities like that other than eat, sleep, and go to school, right? So why are you upset? And that's due because of the culture of their upbringing. Maybe mommy and daddy fuss and argue all the time. Maybe they're constantly getting on the kids about little silly stuff, and they constantly, punishing them. Yeah. It makes them feel like, okay, I can never do anything right. Yeah. I can never my mommy and daddy doesn't love me. They don't like, So these things we do to them shapes their world to make them see themselves in a certain light. So our job is they may not always get it right. They don't necessarily mean you have to continue on, cracking a whip on them. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, hey, good job. I'm proud of you. Let's go out and play. Let's go have some fun. Let's have some daddy-daughter time or some mommy-son time, and spend that quality time with these kids and raise them up so they be more confident in themselves and go out in the world and face the world with its challenges and not feel neglected or feel they're not enough. So. And
it's, just to add to that, and it's, it literally just starts with communication. It's like the smallest thing, like kids coming in from school. Hey, how was your day? What happened in school today? What did you guys like? When my daughter and my son first came to school, first of all, I was like so nervous to like let them go to school. I'm like, oh my God, my kid's going to school. I can't be there. I can't protect them. Like, I'm like having a nervous breakdown.
I'm like, go and let him go.
And he's
Praise
like,
God, go ahead.
Especially my son, he's a man. Let him go. And I'm like, that.
You be all right. If he fails, go ahead. Okay, go and get up, son. Go.
So I'm and his teacher's like, okay, how are they getting home from school? Every day, car rider. They'll never ride a bus. They'll never, every day I'm picking them up. Every day I'm dropping them off. So every day I would ask them, how was school? What happened? And just everything. I'm questioning them every day because keep that open communication with them. Because if your child comes home from school every day and you never ask them about what took place, you never asking them, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or you never just asking them anything. They're coming home, they're going in their room, you going to your room, or they're coming in, you're leaving. Y'all just passing each other like your roommates. Mm-hmm. And they may never say anything, but in their mind, they literally just think that you don't care. So guess what? Now something really happens in their life, out in the world, something happens to them, somebody hurt them. They're not going to come home and tell you because in their mind they're thinking, this joker don't care. Like, she never asked me anything about myself. Like, he never asked me how I'm doing. Hey, son, how is football practice? Like, they never asked me anything about my personal life. So why should I go and tell them that I went outside this house and I got hurt, or something happened to me, or some bullies beat me up? Like, they don't care. Like, God forbid you can have a son, in his room battling his sexuality every day and you don't even know it. And he don't even say anything to you because he feel like you just don't care. Mm-hmm. And boom, here he come out the boondoggle. You like, whoa, like, what happened? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mom, I've been dealing with this forever, but Dad, I've been dealing with this forever, Dad, but you had so many business meetings, you never had time for me. Mom, you were too busy always working. You never had time. So I dealt with it the best way I can. Now, here it is. So it's so important that being that you know how you are raised, you know that feeling, and that's what matters. You know what it felt like for you to be, you know, that child that's on the football field and you look up and you will see a parent there to support you. Or you know what it feels like to, you know, have a school get together and all of your friends' parents show up and you look around and you don't see your parent. You know that feeling. So don't repeat that cycle to your kid. And don't use that excuse of this is what happened to me. No, because now you have a fresh, clean slate not to repeat that. Because guess what? If you be what happened to you, now the only thing you're doing is just adding another arrow to the cycle. That's all you did. And guess what? What's going to happen is when that child gets your age, they're going to do the same thing to their child. They're going to try their hardest to fight it because they're going to know that this hurted me when my parents did it to me. They're going to try their hardest to fight it, but they're going to end up doing the same thing to their child.
Which leads us to our third topic, set your kids up for success. Now, I'm kind of like spin off what you just said because it does kind of tie in together. Now, my wife, you said something real powerful about not being there for the child. Like, let's say if your child is very active in sports and they run track, play basketball, football, volleyball, whatever, and all the other friends, their parents and grandparents, cousins, everybody goes to every one of their events.
Yeah.
It does do something to how they feel when they see that their parents, everybody's cheerleading for them, whether they win or lose, but they see nobody to support them, and they actually are a pretty good athlete. Or let's say they're not even that great of an athlete, but it's good to have somebody on your corner to be like, hey, good job, son, or I like good shot, or nobody's there to cheerlead them. Nobody's there to encourage them, to motivate them to keep going. So they learn how to quit early because nobody's helping to help them set them up for success. Okay? So part of helping them set them up for success is support. Support. That's one of the big things for me, especially for men or little boys growing up, is not seeing daddy there or mommy there to support them, even if you feel like it's minute or not as important to you, it's important to them. So if it's important to them, you want to establish that foundation early so as they get older, it can continue on growing and become something great in them. Whether it be sports or maybe they have an after school activity, maybe they're artists, maybe they can play a musical instrument, maybe they can sing. They have talents or gifts you may or may not be aware of. So it's good to be there to support your children on everything so that as they get older, they can develop the habit of continue on doing whatever they're doing to the point where they I want to say perfect, but improve on their skills. Okay? Which leads me to my three topics. I'm going to let my wife go ahead and speak because I know you have something to say about it. Here's how you set up your kids up for success. Number one is show them an example of success by how it looks like. Do you quit every time you have a challenge? Do you have a business? Are you a sports athlete? Or whatever it is you got going on, do your kids see you handle pressure or a challenge by quitting? Or I'm not going to do it. I'm done with this. I'm not going to do this. Or they see you persevere no matter what. They see that, okay, you know what, dad lost this round, or he may have lost a couple of games, but I see that he's still motivated to play the next game, doing better than he did before. That's the example of success. You teach your son or your daughter, hey, look, even though I failed, I'm not a failure. I'm just going to take this moment and use it as fuel to do better next time, and next time, and next time. Because these are just stepping stones to get me where I want to be. So they have to show them that.
I think about my son. So I'm sorry to cut you off. I think about my son, like, it's funny because Aiden, like we're big on Aiden with that because he was born, he had like little struggles growing up, like speech therapy and occupational therapy. So he would get to the point where he would get frustrated when he couldn't learn certain things. So we would always, give him like words of encouragement. So now he's to the point where if it's something that he struggled with, he literally peps himself up. Like, we don't have to say anything. I'm in my room and I can hear him while he's on Zoom with his teacher, and he's like, come on, Aiden, you got this. You can do this, Aiden. Come on, you can do this. And I'm looking in my room and I'm like, who is he talking? He like literally, and it's like, I love it. It just makes me smile. He literally to the point where he peps himself up.
That's right.
Because that's what we put in him. We teach our kids like, no, if you don't get it right this time, keep trying. I tell my daughter, because sometimes she get to a point where she can get a little lackadaisical if she, can't get it right the first time. She like, Mom, I need help. Mom, I need help. Mom, Dad, I need help. Like, she's kind of quick to give up sometimes. So I say, no, you try 3 different times. And after those, you try 3 different times, you still can't get it. And then you come and ask Mommy and Daddy for help, because I don't want you to be a person that's quick to give up. And a lot of times, before she even gets to the 3rd time, she's already, Mommy, I found the answer. Yeah, I know, because you did what? I tried. Exactly.
And be careful of that, because I'm a little different. My wife said 3 times. I'm like, I'll sit there until Jesus come back. It's like, okay, you ain't got it done yet. Okay, we guess what? You will keep on going until you get tired and I get tired, and it'd be 24 hours later. You still ain't doing it. No, keep going, because we know that it is. Some things will be challenging, and we want to teach our kids. Okay, just because you have a challenge or something you feel you cannot do does not necessarily mean that's true. We want you to understand that there's greatness inside of you, and you can't tap into that greatness until you see you're aware that you can do all things. There's no challenge that you can't beat. I don't care how long it takes. If you're a high school dropout, okay, you can go back and get a GED. It may be uncomfortable, it may be very embarrassing, but you can go back and get it done. Or if you want to finish that degree, or if you want to start your own business and you fail 1,000 times, well, fail 1,001. Okay, so there are ways you can continue on moving forward, especially if something you're passionate about or gifted in. And I tell my wife all the time. I tell my kids. Well, I'm gonna tell my kids, but I will tell them. Okay, if you're gifted in something, right, or talented in something, that's your competitive advantage over everybody else who had to earn their right to get what you got handed to you. For example, let's say like LeBron James is 6'8". Okay, everybody is not 6'8". That's a competitive advantage. You have height, all right, you got size. That's a gift from God. Some of us had to spend some years to get to 6'8", right? Or you're an artist and you have a talent or gift to draw. Your skill at a basic level may require somebody else who doesn't have that gift to earn that for the next 5 or 10 years to get where you got at the gate. So you have a competitive advantage with a gift or talent that God's given you. Your job is to develop the skills to go along with the gift to not so much perfect it, but to improve or to get better at it. Like, you're not gonna become an NBA player playing basketball one time, even though you're talented. You need to develop the skills to go along with it. It may take some years, but if you're passionate about it, even when you fail, it'll be like you're succeeding, because it's so much fun to you. So it's not like it's work. Make sense? So we lead to our second topic: work ethic. Work ethic. So what do you want to say about work ethic?
Well, definitely work ethic. Yeah, definitely work ethic. Work hard. So another thing that falls up under work ethic and success is a lot of times, well, I think more so for men. I think like when you graduate from high school, it's like, yeah, your father's giving you a choice. Hey, either you go to college or you go to the military. Like, pick your poison. pick your poison. I feel like a lot of times, sometimes parents push college on kids, even if that's not something that they want to do. So it's like now you're making them feel like in order to feel, validated, or in order to feel important, I have to go to college. I personally feel, well, Steph and I personally feel like college is not for everybody. I feel like if you're in a certain profession, like doctor, lawyer, or certain things, then for those type of professions, yeah, you may have to go to college for that. But we strongly believe in entrepreneurship, and we understand clearly that that's not for everyone. Right now our kids are 6 and 8, and at this very moment, Steph and I, we're working on things for our kids that are literally setting them up to be entrepreneurs, for about time they graduate out of high school. We have something that we're working on with my son right now, and something in the works with my daughter right now. We're, going to be teaching them the fundamentals of finances and everything they need to know. We're not going to force college on them. We want them to be able to learn money, teach them how to make money, and make their own money, become your own boss. You know, we don't want our kids to be able to have to, you know, work for someone. And we, like we said, we clearly understand some people enjoy working 9 to 5. You know, if that's your thing, then that's your thing, you know. But as for our household, like I said, we believe in entrepreneurship, and we're setting our kids up for it. And I don't feel like, you know, sometimes parents should force their kids to go to college or make them feel like that's the only way that you're accomplished if you go to college. Because actually, my wonderful husband, Stephen, has multiple degrees. He has bachelor's, he have, you know, associates, he has a lot of degrees. And at certain times in our marriage, there were times where it was hard for him to get a job with all those degrees. We have people in our circle, friends right now in our circle, that have multiple degrees, and still with those degrees, it's hard to get a good job with those degrees. So you force your kids to go to college, get into a whole bunch of debt. By the time they get out of college, half the time there's not even a job that's set up for them and waiting for them when they get out of college. All they have waiting for them is a bunch of debt that most likely nobody has funds set aside to help them pay.
Yeah.
You know,
this should be some like if you're gonna go to college, there should be some guarantees, and they're not gonna give you any guarantees whether that you land a good career. But like she said, you know, you having a felony or you having a degree does not constitute is not a prerequisite for being successful. Success has to do with you.
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, you got people like Steve Jobs and, you know, Bill Gates, who ain't got a degree or anything, but they're the most richest people in the world. So that's not a prerequisite for that. But work ethic simply means that, okay, whatever you're trying to do, you put faith and work together. They work together, they're hand in hand. You can't say, I believe I want to do the X, Y, Z, I want to be an astronaut, but you do nothing towards making that come to fruition. If you really believe in it, then your actions should show it, right? And third and final thing is fail to succeed. Very important. And we kind of covered it a little bit earlier on in this conversation. Failing is not failing, it's stepping stones that lead to success. So nobody just got to where they want to be at in anything about failing. And those failures is just corrective course correction. You know,
fell for it.
So, okay, you didn't make that layup. Okay, maybe your former's off. So, you know, okay, next time I need to fix my form. Or, you know, you were, you know, running track and you ate the wrong stuff, so it kind of messed up your time. Like, when you fail, it does not mean you're a failure. It simply means that you make some adjustments so that next time you can move on forward in the process when you get where you want to be at in any type of career or sport. If you're a sports type of person, you're an athlete, these are the stepping stones to get there. Like, we have light, we have airplanes, we have cars we drive, we got so many things we enjoy the fruits of somebody else's labor because they failed to succeed to where they're at now. Even when it comes to advanced technology now, we have apps on our phone. Maybe in the 90s, there was no such thing as apps or YouTube or anything like that. But somebody took the time to spend crazy amount of hours developing an idea in which they failed to succeed in. You know, Bill Gates came up with Microsoft. That was a blessing because the whole computer and, you know, having that software to make things a lot more easier now. Where now all these advanced technology has changed the way we live. I mean, it made the world a little bit smaller. I could be in China or on the internet. I can actually FaceTime somebody who lives hundreds of thousands of miles away because somebody failed to succeed.
Yep.
So those are our topics: generational spirits, emotions, success. These are just some of many things that will help, you know, parent your children as they get older. These are some of the topics we feel are very important, especially when it comes to generational spirits, dealing with entertaining things that you should entertain to help you that can affect your children growing up.
So these are just, like Stephen said, these are just some of the topics. Like, it can be so much more bullets, but we would never end the video. But these are just some major topics that you guys can definitely work on with your family. Find out what are some things in your family, you know, that you don't know about. Find out some things about yourself, like, why do you do what you do? Why do you think the way you think? Why do you act the way you act? Find out some things, you know, talk to your mother, your parents, your grandparents, whoever, to find out some more things about yourself. The more things you know about yourself, the more things you can talk to your kids about, the more they can discover who you are who they are. The more you can discover who you are, and the more they can discover who they are, because it's so important that your kids know who they are at an early age. That's like, it's not the best place to be in, not knowing who you are, because you're just like, you're a puppet. You're just everybody. You're at that moment. You're just what whoever wants you to be. You know, somebody wants you to be Bill Cosby today. You're Martin Luther over here. You're George Washington over there. I mean, yeah, cause I'm just saying that's literally like, I'm thinking about my school days because it's so crazy, because I had it so bad in middle school and high school, and I was just like so messed up. I was just like I was like a flunky. Like, whatever telling the deal to do it, she'll do it. You know, it's just crazy. I don't want to go back into it, but it's crazy. Like, help your kids, parents. Help your kids. Pray for your kids. Pray for God, you know, to cover your kids.
And be there. Be there
for your kids. It's so important. Be there for them.
Presence is everything.
Presence is everything. And communicate with them on a daily basis.
Look, you guys, we're going to wrap it up. This is Bell Talk.
They say talk is cheap. Come and have a seat. Join the conversation. This is what you need. Real convo, authentic and honest. Communicating in marriage. Yeah, we gotta talk about it. Yeah. Never hold back. Lay it all out on the table. Building up stronger relations. It's time for a transformation. This is real talk. Something you can feel talk. Come and grab a seat. Yeah, it's time to have some Bell Talk. Woo! Bell Talk.